watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I'm your host, Stone Shields. Welcome into this at-home edition of Bengals Breakdown here on a Sunday morning. Coming up on today's show, going to be spending a little bit of time talking about Shemar Stewart. It's been several episodes, really over a couple of weeks since we've spent a lot of time talking about Shemar Stewart. Going to be detailing where things are at as far as his contract situation with the Cincinnati Bengals. Spoiler alert, not much going on that front. Also, some more rankings that we're going to get to here on today's show. Obviously, it is late June, about to be July, kind of a slow month for the NFL before training camp really gets underway. So we're going to be talking about the offensive line, and we're going to be talking about the linebacker crew as well on today's show. Stick around. You don't want to miss that. But make sure you guys do hit that sub button if you haven't done so already at youtube.com/BengalsTV. We'll have videos for you throughout the remainder of the offseason. And then really the best part is once things really start getting underway in training camp in about a month or so. And then you have the preseason and then, of course, the regular season as well. You don't want to miss out. You still want to get our videos leading up to that time period as well. So help us out. Hit that sub button for me right now, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Next goal here is 20,000 subscribers. We are trying to hit that mark before the preseason. So we'll see if we can't do that here at the channel. Help yourself out. Help me out as well here at Bengals Breakdown. So ESPN's Aaron Schatz, he dropped one final offseason move each NFL team should make before training camp. And he kept it in-house with the Cincinnati Bengals, saying this: sign Shemar Stewart, get it figured out. Couldn't agree with Schatz more on that situation. And if you're kind of new to this, just kind of a recap on what exactly is going on here with Shemar Stewart. He is not happy with the contract that Cincinnati is proposing. Cincinnati wants the language in the contract saying that if there were to be a default in the contract from Shemar Stewart, some of his guarantees would be voided. Now, I'm going to be very clear here. Cincinnati is not doing anything out of the ordinary as it relates to the rest of the NFL. Teams across the league have been implementing this language in their contracts, and it's not a new thing. But for Cincinnati, this is the first time that they are doing it with a first-round pick. So they're trying to set a new precedent here with Shemar Stewart, and his take is, well, why am I the first one? Why does it have to be me? Why not? Why can't I just get the contract that Amarius Mims got last offseason? You kind of understand both sides of the argument there, and it really comes down to which side is going to budge first. Now, the reason why this is such a big story, obviously locally, but nationally as well, is because Shemar Stewart is not practicing. It's not uncommon for rookies to not have their contract finalized at this stage of the offseason. There's several rookies in the first round that are not signed yet, but Shemar Stewart did not sign his participation contract, his injury waiver, whatever you want to call it, saying that essentially he could go out there and practice, and if something were to happen, injury or otherwise, the team would take care of him. But he hasn't signed that because he's frustrated with the language in that as well, saying that the language in the participation contract doesn't align with language that other NFL teams have in their participation contract. So it's kind of a double standard here. Disappointed with the language in the real contract and the participation waiver as well. And that is coming from Tom Pelissero. That's kind of a new update here in regards to the Shemar Stewart contract situation. I didn't realize he was unhappy with the language in the injury waiver as well. I figured he just was like frustrated that he didn't have the contract, and he said, you know what, screw this, I'm not practicing. That was kind of my standpoint and my understanding of the situation. But Tom Pelissero a couple of days ago for NFL Network did put that out, saying he was frustrated with that as well, that being the injury waiver, and that's why he is not practicing. And that's why it's such a massive story, because he's already considered a raw prospect, only 4.5 sacks, and ultimately has not been out there on the football field with his team. And obviously that is a massive, massive issue. But it's kind of a staring contest right now between the Cincinnati Bengals and Shemar Stewart. We will see who budges first. If Cincinnati ultimately says, you know what, you win, we'll give you kind of the old language and we'll move on so we can get you out on the football field. Or if they just sit there and say, this is what we're doing, and we'll see how long Shemar Stewart sits out. It definitely would be crazy for a rookie to miss training camp and then miss the season. That's not really something that happens. If he missed the entirety of the season in 2025, he could essentially re-enter the draft. We talked about that. I still would be completely shocked if that happened, but this is all very noteworthy because he is not practicing, and it's not like he was a guy that accomplished a lot at the collegiate level. He needs those reps, and ultimately he's not getting them. Pin comment time here on today's show. Will Shemar Stewart participate in Bengals training camp? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Type Y for yes or N for no. Before we continue, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. It is Sunday, June 29th right now. July 4th is right around the corner. Get you some Cincinnati Bengals USA swag courtesy of our friends over at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/BengalsJuly4/. We'll put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show. Obviously, it's an at-home video, so we don't have the graphics there for you, but make sure you check the link that's in the comment section and the description of today's video. Pretty cool. It's got the B on it with the stars and stripes on there as well. USA swag, as well as some Cincinnati Bengals gear as well. It's over on Fanatics. Make sure you guys check it out. All right, let's talk rankings here to close out today's show. First, let's start with the offensive line. Sharp Football Analysis ranks the Bengals 31st in offensive line heading into the 2025 season. Obviously, there's only 32 teams in the NFL. The 32nd team is the Houston Texans. The Bengals essentially are the second worst offensive line, according to Sharp Football Analysis. And they kind of cited some of the issues from last year. Cordell Volson and Alex Kappa, who were ranked as basically the worst guards in the National Football League from a pass protection standpoint. And I get it, but obviously the Bengals have different plans there at the guard position. Volson's going to have an opportunity to compete for a spot, but there's no guarantee that he's going to start. And obviously Kappa is now in Las Vegas. So to put it on those two guys and say that's the reason you're 31st, that to me doesn't make a ton of sense. But obviously the guys that you have coming in, you got a rookie in Dylan Fairchild, who I have a lot of high hopes for. But at the end of the day, he's a rookie, right? You don't feel too great about that. And then Lucas Patrick is kind of a journeyman veteran kind of guy that you kind of got after all the good guys were gone in free agency. He was kind of a late ad, and now he's expected to kind of come in there. And a lot of people think he's going to start for this Bengals football team. So it feels kind of like a patchwork offensive line again. But, especially at that right guard spot, not knowing exactly, well, if Fairchild plays left or Fairchild plays right, what have you. But that opposite guard spot to Fairchild kind of feels like you're just trying to figure out who exactly is going to be that guy for the long term. But regardless, 31 seems a little bit harsh to me. Look, was the offensive line as good as it needed to be last year? No. There's a reason why Frank Pollock got fired, and now Scott Peters is in town. But it was the best offensive line Joe Burrow's had throughout his time here in the NFL. Throughout 5 years, this is the best offensive line that he had this past year. And I've said it a lot on the show, all right, when your offensive line is getting beat up by, the media and people saying it stinks or whatever, you also have to look at what you're doing offensively. Cincinnati is a team that they spread it 5 wide and they throw the football. There's only so many different protections that you can run out of that setup offensively, and that puts a lot of stress on the offensive line. So I think kind of the play style of the Bengals impacts the ability to have a quote-unquote successful offensive line, and also the play style of their quarterback, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's unbelievable. In my opinion, the best quarterback in the National Football League. He holds on to the football. That's what he does. It's part of his game. That's part of what makes him so great. But him holding on to the football is, a reason why he takes some of the shots that he does, and the offensive line kind of gets penalized for it. So to be very clear, the offensive line that you had in 2021 was horrible, right? That went to the Super Bowl, right? Just horrible. Last year's unit wasn't nearly that bad, but obviously when you're seeing the franchise get hit as much as he did last year, it's cause for concern, and obviously there's changes now with Scott Peters coming in. 31 feels harsh to me, but at the end of the day, you got to be a lot better along the offensive line, and if you end up being the 31st offensive line in the National Football League, probably not going to get to where you want to get to, despite the fact back in 2021 you were able to do it with the worst offensive line, but probably not something to bank on. Another opportunity for you guys to get involved with our show here at Bengals Breakdown. Scale your confidence level for me in the Bengals offensive line. Scale it 1 to 10, 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. All right, last thing here, let's talk linebackers. Some more rankings that we will talk about. PFF's Dalton Wasserman ranked the Bengals linebacker core 15 in the NFL, so the middle of the pack. And I think this is pretty promising to see this ranking from PFF because if you remember last year, obviously the defense in its entirety was a disaster, but in large part, the linebacker crew was really, really bad. And there were some question marks kind of around Logan Wilson, who was phenomenal in the run game, but in the passing game, he was not. All right, but then, of course, he missed the end of the year with that knee injury, and there were some people speculating, myself included, maybe that was something that hampered his ability throughout the season. But once Wilson went down, it went really downhill as far as your linebacker play went. Jermaine Pratt obviously no longer with the football team. He did not play particularly well this past year, and you had a lot of question marks beyond them as well. And now it's a completely different new room. All right, you still got Logan Wilson kind of spearheading that room, but behind him it's new guys. You got Demetrius Knight Jr., who most people come in or expect to come in and start alongside Logan Wilson at that linebacker spot as your second round rookie. I'm intrigued by it. Hopefully it works out. You also took Barrett Carter in the 4th round, right out of Clemson, another linebacker, another young guy on this team that is going to have to step up in some degree. He's not going to be called upon nearly as much as Demetrius Knight Jr., but at the same time, he's going to have to make an impact as a rookie. Also, Oren Burks, a veteran guy, just won a world title with Philadelphia last year. And we're going to see what his kind of role looks like as well. So I think that ranking is promising just because of all the newness that Cincinnati has within that linebacker room. It's Logan Wilson and a bunch of new guys. And as we've talked about, Al Golden's specialty, of course, is linebackers. When he went to the Super Bowl in 2021, who was the linebacker coach? It was Al Golden. So I feel like he's going to be able to get the most out of that unit. And you could tell based on the draft picks that Al Golden had a lot to say. And they wanted to get him some new linebackers. They got him 2 out of the 6 draft picks they had. I think that is very much significant. And we'll see what is able to happen. But overall, that ranking I find pretty promising. If the Bengals linebackers can be in that middle of the pack, I think that's going to bode well for them defensively as a whole, and that will allow them to get to where they want to get to in the postseason and beyond. Because let's be very clear, your money is allocated on the offensive side of the football, and it always will be as long as Joe Burrow is here, right? You got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins obviously getting paid as well. The defense isn't in a situation where they're going to be a top 10 defense. Maybe, once in a blue moon they can be based on good drafting and good development, but that's probably not where you're going to be. You just need to be in that top 15 range or even top 20, right, to be competitive. You had one of the worst defenses in the National Football League last year, and that's why you missed the playoffs. If you can just be competitive on that side of the ball and can be relied on to get some stops late in ball games, that's going to bode really, really well for your football team. And at the end of the day, your offense is going to be able to take control and win these football games. That'll do it for today's at-home edition of Bengals Breakdown. We will be back in the studio tomorrow with videos for you guys all throughout next week. Don't miss out. Once again, hit that sub button for me right now.